It also drives me bonkers to hear the media use the term luxury because, quite frankly, anything north of a Motel 6 is luxury.
When I first started covering the cruise industry, I didn't like it a lot.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Janet's podcast, Wind of Change. And I'm the co-host, Chris Prelog, introducing Janet to her wonderful podcast. Welcome, Janet.
Hello there, Chris. And you know what? He is still around. He's still behaving, even though we're swapping seats. It's okay. But welcome, everyone. I am so excited because our next guest is here with us. We're still at Seatrade and the Miami Beach Convention Center, and we are celebrating 40 years. And we're, not only are we celebrating 40 years, but also Seatrade's celebrating 40 years. So we've brought a special guest, David Swanson. Welcome, David.
Hello.
And David has been sailing on WinStar for longer than I've been working here for sure. So we thought we would bring him over. He's also a media friend and journalist that usually is the one asking us questions. So we thought, what would be 180 degrees from ordinary?
I'm on the hot seat.
Yes, you are.
And so now that you've taken over the hot seat or the host seat, actually, Chris,
The
go
host
ahead.
seat?
Yes, let's get started.
Well, it's always great to talk to our media partners, and particularly David, who we just said, we were sailing just very recently on our ships. But it is amazing to actually spend some time talking about cruising, and particularly for those guests who have not considered cruising and thinking, well, I'm not sure I'm a cruise person. It's nice to hear from our partners, our media friends, to say, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you went into cruising, and then what would you recommend to people?
I came into cruising through the back door. By accident, you might say. I started writing travel back in 1995, wrote for the LA Times and quite a few different newspapers back then. And in 2011, 2012, actually the first person who ever issued a contract for me, someone you know, Veronica Stoddart, contacted me, or didn't contact me, she put a notice out that she was looking for an anonymous cruise ship critic. And I just called her up and I said, you don't think I would be right for this, do you? And she said, well, I don't know, what's your cruising experience? I said, I've been on two-night cruises and that's it for my entire life.
Yeah.
And she said, you're perfect for it.
Ooh.
So next thing I knew, I was an anonymous cruise ship critic for USA Today.
How fun.
And this went on for about 2 years, and I was on about 2 ships a month. And these were quite extensive, in-depth reviews. These would be 4,000 to 6,000 word reviews of the ships, along with 500, 600, 700 photos. I was taking photos of the outlets in the room, the shower head. Every little detail to give people an idea of what that particular ship was like. And it was a complete eye-opener for me. And I think one of the reasons I was appropriate for the job was because I came in with a clean slate. I didn't have preconceived notions. I didn't have relationships that were built up and so forth. And amazingly, 2 years later, no one knew who I was or that I was doing it or anything like that. So it was good.
So you spent 2 years going to ships very often.
Yeah, sometimes 3 ships in a month.
That's crazy.
It was quite often it was back to back. I'd get off a Holland America ship in Vancouver, take the bus down to Seattle and get on a Princess ship up to Alaska. It was, we were trying to, of course, maximize the travel time and the travel expenses and so forth. So to a large degree, I'd say most of them were back-to-backs. And it was just kind of figuring out, because we wanted to get on each individual ship. It wasn't about the cruise experience. It wasn't about the destination. So we'd have ships we wanted to get on, and I'd say, okay, well, we can fit this one with this one, and so on and so forth. And it was a really interesting experience.
Yeah, this is actually quite amazing. Fair to say you have seen your fair share of cruise ships, right?
I've seen a few.
Yeah, couple, right?
A
2,
couple.
3, a month, yeah. So lots of experience, David. What would you recommend to somebody who hasn't cruised yet? Why cruising? Why do it? What would be the draw on it from your perspective?
It's interesting to me. There's so many people who have kind of a bias against cruising, period.
Yeah, I agree.
And they've never tried it. And they have a perspective, and sometimes it's not inaccurate, but it only captures one side of the cruise industry, which is huge and diverse. So there are 7,000 passenger ships, there are 700 passenger ships, and those are two completely different experiences.
Correct.
And it's interesting to me that so many people assume it's one, or that you have to dress up in black tie for dinner every night. And yeah, there's one or two cruise lines that you still do that, or maybe one or two nights of the cruise, but that's not the whole industry. It also drives me bonkers to hear the media use the term luxury, because quite frankly, in the travel business, anything north of a Motel 6 is luxury.
Right.
And so anytime there's an incident that's newsworthy, whether it's, a norovirus outbreak or, storm at sea or whatever, the luxury cruise ship, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, no, that's not a luxury ship. That's just your average cruise ship.
Yeah.
But at the same time, most cruises do deliver an element of pampering and, dare I say, luxury that isn't common in our day-to-day life.
I agree with you, and it's so funny you mentioned it, because Janet and I was just hosting as well a previous podcast where the word luxury came up.
With Dory, which you know very well.
Yes, I know Dory quite well, and how dare she use that word? It's the cheapest word in the travel business.
Well, that's what she said.
Exactly.
Okay,
It's like
she's quoting me.
overused.
She's quoting me.
It's overused, and it doesn't mean anything. It means so many different things to the individuals, and you're right. But one thing is true, that the service on cruise ships is really very well, no matter which one you pick. And
Yes.
the convenience of travel is quite amazing, because you get actually to see 6 different countries in 7 days without ever packing and unpacking. Right?
And that's a real pleasure. I have, when I had the cruise job, I had the fortunate situation that I could bring somebody with me, because I was generally paying for 2.
Yeah.
The single supplements were not as common as they are now. And as a result, I introduced a lot of my relatives. I took my mother, I took my sister, my brother, my sisters-in-law, my niece and nephew. I mean, one by one, they all kind of got a sampling of it and different experiences. But one of the things that I would really impress on them is when we got to the cabin, it's like, okay, the first order of business, after I'd gotten my photos of the cabin, first order of business is you unpack. He said, what do you mean? I can just put my suitcase under the bed. I said, yeah, take everything out of it, put it in the drawers, put it in the closet, and then at the end of the trip, you put it back in. Oh, no, I don't travel that way. I was like, well, you're on a cruise ship now. Make it convenient for yourself.
Right.
Don't have to dig. And my mother, I think I took her on 4 or 5 cruises, even to the very end. It was one of those things, can you take my suitcase out and put it on the bed so I can get some stuff out? No, I'm not doing that.
I love that story. That's a great one.
It is though true, right? Because the convenience of that the hotel comes with you, is not just only convenience, but it also, where you go back to. It gives you an opportunity, if you taste a new destination and want to get a bit of a feel for it, that at the end of the day, after your tours or lunch or what have you, you can come back on board the ship and you get into a very familiar environment. I think that's also for many travelers sort of like an opportunity to taste a new destination.
I will say one other thing. I don't only cruise. I do like to travel on land and arrange my own itinerary, and I'll always, try and add on 3 or 4 or 5 days, whether it's in Europe or Asia or wherever. And I have learned what I think is a valuable lesson, which is you do that at the beginning of the trip. You spend your 2 days in Madrid and a couple days in Barcelona, as I did recently before a Windstar cruise, or 4 days in Shanghai before getting on a ship in Shanghai.
Yeah.
You do it at the beginning of the trip, because once you're on the ship, you get a bit spoiled.
And lazy, right?
And so when you get on the ship, that's kind of the vacation.
That's when your vacation really starts.
Right, exactly. So I've learned, don't add on days at the end. I mean, sometimes it works out because that's where the ship ends up and you want to see that area, but it's really handy to have that time on shore beforehand.
Yeah. And that's why we love to sell our cruise tours. I mean, we have these packages that we sell that's pre or post. The majority of them are taken pre-cruise exactly for that reason. You do all the touring and then you come back to the ship and then you're spoiled by our Windstar crew. Yes. So I have a question. Uh-oh. So you've talked about cruise, you've talked about your career, but do you remember your first cruise with Windstar?
Oh, of course.
And can you tell our viewers a little bit about that cruise?
Yes, I can. I was traveling as Secret Dave, the anonymous cruise ship critic, And it was one of the sailing ships. The largest one is
Windsurf.
Surf. Thank you. I always get them confused. I don't know why it is. And it was a 7-night itinerary from, I think it was a round trip out of Civitavecchia, Rome, through the Mediterranean, and it was a wonderful experience. I loved it. A couple of the memories that were really important to me. I have a bit of a volcano fetish, and I will tell you, I will brag. I have climbed to the top, to the summit of all 5 of Italy's active volcanoes. And one of which is Stromboli. And I did that, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago. And I think right now it's a little unsafe, so I'm not recommending that
You
to
can see it from the ship in the evenings.
Yes, exactly.
It's beautiful.
We sailed out of Lipari, and we had the top deck evening barbecue, and the damn thing was sparking like a Roman candle. It was great. It was really, really cool.
And we do offer that itinerary still that does visit the Aeolian Islands. It's some of my favorite places.
I love the Aeolian Islands. They are beautiful. I've been to, I think, 4 of them, but another one is Vulcano, is another one of the volcanoes. Very easy hike, like a 45-minute, 60-minute hike up to the top there, and to Lipari, and I've been to, Filicudi, I think it is. Anyway.
And
Panarea.
Panarea.
Yeah.
Oh, love Panarea.
Yeah. Do you guys go there?
No, we don't go to Panarea, but you
It's
can take
pretty
a ferry
small.
from Lipari there. I would love to go to Panarea. I know Jess, we're going to have to work with Jess on
Gotta
that one.
work with it.
Yeah, that's where I spend my summer vacations. I love that
Do you
area.
really?
Yes, I love it.
I love the Aeolian
yes,
Islands.
yes, it is. And so you've been on the windsurf. You've done all the volcanoes. Have you done the Vesuvio?
Of course.
Oh, that's amazing. That's by near Napoli.
Yeah.
That's
and
pretty
Etna.
cool. And
I went up to the summit of Etna with its daddy,
that is bold.
the chief scientist for the island of Sicily.
Wow, that's
He
cool.
took me up in a 4x4. We drove up to the top, and it was erupting. It wasn't big fountains, but I stood 2 feet from lava that was flowing.
That's amazing.
And yeah.
So we talk about adventurous spirit. I think you definitely
David
are
is
the
a
perfect
man.
WinStar guest because you have that adventurous spirit about you.
It's true.
Yes. And so we've talked about that. And so what is it about WinStar? So you've critiqued a lot of ships and you've seen a lot of ships. What is it about WinStar that you feel is unique and different?
I feel it's casual and at the same time very elegant. And it's as elegant as you want to make it. And it's not a dressy ship. And at the same time, if you were to dress up, you wouldn't feel out of place. And if you were to dress down, it'd be okay. I mean, I know you have to wear long pants at dinner at the main restaurant. But it fits my style, which is nice, which is, sometimes I do like to dress up. I really enjoyed being on a Cunard ship many years ago and bringing along 2 suits and dressing up for dinner several nights of the cruise. Do I want to do that all the time? No.
Right.
But I really enjoyed that. And I think WinStar gives you that flexibility where, if you wanted to put on a jacket and tie, it wouldn't be completely, no one's going to throw
Right.
you off the ship.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's a very comfortable environment for me. And I will say that after the cruise job ended, we were not getting the support from the cruise industry. I guess I said one too many bad things about somebody. I don't know. The first cruise I took after that was a Windstar cruise.
Oh, wow.
And my husband and I took our mothers on a cruise. We went out of London, from the Tower of London, and this was right when the Star Legend had been acquired. I think it was the first or second cruise. We sailed out of the Tower of London, down the Thames, and on up to Dublin, and it was a beautiful 7-night cruise. And similarly, when my husband had his something special birthday, which happens to happen on Thanksgiving Day about once every 7 years.
How cool.
In 2019, I told his sisters, okay, I'm on the spot. I can't screw this up because the last birthday, I apparently didn't deliver, and I've been told I got to deliver the goods.
Yeah.
And so I said, I've got to do something. I'm going to get the family together. And we did. I said, what would you think of a cruise? They said, oh, I don't know if we can afford it. No, bringing all the kids. He has 6 nieces and nephews. I have 3. And we were looking at the cost and thinking, this is going to add up. Good thing is November is kind of shoulder or off season, maybe not in the Caribbean, but so I was initially looking at a Caribbean cruise, and then I was thinking, there's this Royal Caribbean itinerary out of Rome that looked pretty good, and it was very inexpensive. And then there was a sale on a Star Legend cruise, and it was out of San Juan. And I said to my sisters-in-law, I said, okay, I know this is a little more than what you budgeted for, but I'm telling you this is worth, a few $100 extra. So I talked them into it. And I also said, it's really important to me that we leave out of San Juan. So many cruises leave out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale, and a 7-night cruise in the Caribbean, you spend a day, sometimes 2 days at sea to get to the islands, and you're limited to this really small selection of islands. You can't get deep into the Caribbean, and which is what I really like. And so sailing out of San Juan, we got to 6 different islands. We had 6 different islands, but we got all the way down as far as St. Lucia. We got to Grenada. We got to Les Saintes, which is one of my favorite places in the Caribbean. And we spoiled that family. I mean, we had 11 of us on there, and it was great. And I've heard a couple of them go on other brands that will be unnamed, and they come away going, oh, what a disappointment.
Not with WinStar, but they keep coming back to WinStar, right?
A couple of them have, yes.
Yes, amazing. That's great to hear. And I know we talk about that, like from Caribbean, people ask us all the time, why don't you sail out of Miami? David has eloquently said exactly why.
Sailing out of San Juan gives you the entire region.
Yeah.
You could go anywhere in that 7 days, whereas out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale, you're really limited.
Exactly.
And for most people in the United States, San Juan really isn't much further in terms of a flight than Miami is, and the cost is usually about the same as well.
It's easy to
Amazing
get
So
to.
it's really it's not that much of an inconvenience or cost thing. But it gives you so much more.
Yeah.
I love that.
What is your sort of favorite destination to cruise to? Do you have any like top of mind of what you said, like, I got to do that again, for listeners? Where would you recommend them to go?
Okay, this is where you put it on pause because I want to give this some thought. I don't want to just come out with something out of,
Yeah.
I don't, oh boy.
Just
Where is my favorite place? I have to say, I really, really liked the French Polynesia cruise that I did with you guys a year ago.
yeah.
It was all right. I would do that, and I would do that again.
So Tahiti is a favorite of yours, right?
It's a favorite of yours too. I know.
I know. I didn't
Well,
want
that's
to
why
say
he's mentioning
quite
that.
like
Yes, he loves it
just
when
wanted
people
to-
respond to Tahiti.
I wasn't doing that for you.
Yeah,
just
no,
so
thank you. But I agree, it's a very nice area.
There's other places. I've done maybe 3 Norway cruises, not with WinStar.
Beautiful,
but
the Norwegian fjords.
yeah, and I haven't done a land trip in Norway, and I really want to do one. But a cruise trip in Norway is terrific. You're able to see quite a bit in like a 7 or 8 day cruise. Another one that I really like, and maybe someday you guys will get there, Greenland.
Ooh.
Yes.
Jess
Yeah.
is working on that.
Jess is working on it. We are not allowed to talk about it, but yeah, we're looking at it.
Yes. Wink, wink.
Yes.
Say no more.
Yes. It is really honestly, and a destination I think keeps coming up. Well, and not for the reasons what we're seeing on the news, but for
We won't go
travel
there.
reasons.
People enjoy going there.
Yeah,
and
cool.
people who've been there.
It's a really unique destination, and I
Yeah.
don't use the word unique, arbitrarily. It's very different from what a lot of people expect it was for me. And I've done a land trip and I've done a sea trip, and the land trip is complicated to arrange to really see a lot, and it's very expensive. Whereas a cruise can get you to a lot of places very efficiently. Again, like
Yeah,
in
of course.
Norway, and that's a real advantage where cruising comes in ahead of a land trip in many ways.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an up and coming destination. I think there's more infrastructure being built there as well.
New airport just
yeah,
opened,
yeah.
and you can fly. You will be able to fly there from the United States for the first time, whereas formerly you had to fly to Iceland or to
Correct.
where did you fly to? Somewhere in Europe to fly to Greenland.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
Amazing. So I know we're coming up to the end of the podcast, but we want to, we have a lot of guests that are considering a WinStar cruise, and they're trying to figure out what is the first WinStar cruise that they should take. And so I know we've talked a lot about destinations, but if there was one cruise that you would recommend from WinStar, I know all these trivia questions, David. I know, but we will actually allow you to ask us some questions too. Like, we're not just drilling you, so think about what you're going to ask us. But yeah, what would that be?
A Windstar cruise I have not done
Okay.
is Greece.
Ooh.
Would love to do Greece on one of the sailing ships. Would be terrific, or on one of the Star class ships. But Greece is a destination. I feel like everyone goes to Mykonos and Santorini, and I've been to those places multiple times. But I think with Windstar, there's the opportunity to get to some less visited islands. So that appeals to me. Where else? Oh my gosh. I'm very curious about your Alaska cruises.
Yes.
And I know you're going back in there with a new ship.
Just our Seeker,
Yeah, and that should be very interesting. And I've actually been on a twin of that ship.
Oh.
And I know you guys have done quite a job on it. It's going to be a very different ship,
Correct.
especially in appearance. But it's a terrific ship. And I think what you guys have planned is really interesting. So.
Yeah, it's we've been spending a lot of time sort of Winstonizing the
Is that a word?
Yeah,
Yes,
well, I
we
just
use
made
it
it
all
up.
the time.
Yeah, of the Star Seeker, because we added a marina platform, a jacuzzi on the bow, added a big spa.
And you can go snorkeling in Alaska.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds cold.
Yeah, you need a wetsuit.
Which is actually really great. Cold plunging is actually like a thing.
It is.
Yes.
You do need a wetsuit. And I don't
Okay.
know if that makes it still a cold plunge or not. I'm not sure if it still counts.
That's okay.
That.
I will count it as such. David, do you have any questions for us as we wrap up?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Where's your mystery cruise going?
Ooh.
Yes. So the one person who doesn't know where it's going is me, because I'm joining the ship in Athens. That's all I know. It's on April 19th in Athens, an 8-day trip in Greece. It's a mystery cruise, and it's all about adventure. It's all about who you travel with versus where you're going. And the mastermind behind where we're going is actually Janet, and she knows where the ship is going.
Really?
And she has not told me, David. Can you
And I
believe it?
refuse to, David, and I will not tell a soul. There's no bribery being
Will you
accepted
tell the
at
captain?
this time. The captain does know, but I think he's going to find out like a couple of days before. That's what Stain tells me.
Really? Really?
So it's Stain and I, and a couple of folks on the Windstar side who have masterminded Mike Inman and Melissa. There's a couple of folks, but they have been really, tight-lipped around Windstar, and Chris has tried. There's a lot of bribery going around, lots of cookies and ice cream
lots of
being
ice cream
offered.
and cookies. People are
Well,
really...
I think it's a great concept. I happened to be with you
I know.
when the concept came up.
Yes.
And it's not like no one has ever done that before, but as soon as you mentioned it, it's like, perfect. Do it.
Yes.
That's great. Because the reason I think it really works is you had the lead time, a full year to announce it and sell it and so forth. And I think you're going to have a bunch of Windstar freaks on that ship.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie is going to be off the charts because the camaraderie is normally really good.
Yes.
But this is going to be even better.
I will tell you something that really amazed me. So I did the French Polynesia cruise with you a little over a year ago. I guess that was February 24.
2000,
24.
24.
So my husband and I just did a Spain cruise with you in February of 2025. There were 3 couples on that cruise who were on the French Polynesia
Oh,
cruise.
wow.
It's
Is that a tight-knit circle? And,
it is
and,
very,
and probably 5, 7, 8 people of the crew we knew. And I mean, they saw us, they remembered us, and it's like, okay, it's like family.
I think like half the ship on the mystery cruise has sailed in the Marquesas. I mean, it's literally, this
were
is a
on board,
huge
yeah, I was
crowd.
talking about it.
Yeah.
Sure. That makes
It's a
perfect
huge
sense.
crowd on board, and everyone is super excited. I'm super excited. I think it's really awakening sort of the sense of adventure.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, we're going to be there. Oh, this is cool. And of course, many of the ports we go to, we haven't been before. So that on its own is a new thing because, like you said, there's a lot of loyal club members on the trip. So they want to see something new too, right? And so this is a perfect mix, I believe.
Good.
Yes. And one of the things that I find that's really unique about WinStar, people who sail with WinStar love it and they keep coming back over and over again. Our repeat rate, our loyalty, our yacht club members are truly WinStar fans. And I think they really stick by to figure out what itineraries are we doing. And then if we tell them we're going to do this amazing trip and we're not going to tell you what, they trust the brand to deliver an exceptional experience. And I'm just so excited.
I can't wait to hear where you guys go.
Yeah.
I hope you've got a blog or something going on a daily basis.
We do.
We do. So follow us on Instagram Live if you want to learn all
Okay.
about where the mystery cruise is going.
You mean where it went?
Where it went.
Where-
Yes, no,
I'll do
no.
a live blog. I'll be
Yes,
live.
our social media influencer resident here. Are you following him on Instagram, by the way?
I'm not sure I am.
Oh my
you
gosh.
gotta- you
Okay, we'll take
gotta-
care of that before we get off.
What's your name?
But yes, so we'll blog live
Yes.
and provide really cool updates, and I guess we'll have a great time.
I will be
100%.
following that. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, agree.
David, thank you so much for joining us. And here's where you wrap it up and say goodbye to our listeners and viewers.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for listening in, turning on the cameras and all the things. Thank you, and look forward to the next podcast of Winds of Change by Janet Bava.
By all of us. Now,
Wow.
I mean, he's going to be taking on my role as podcast host very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back, friends. My name is Janet Bava, and I'm the host of Winds of Change. And we are still here in Miami Beach at the Seatrade Cruise Convention, celebrating 40 years of cruise brands coming together and talking about our favorite subject, which is traveling the world on a cruise. With us here today, we have welcomed back our president, Chris Prelog. Chris, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, and Chris is not wearing headphones and he's not touching colorful buttons yet, so he's going to keep coming back to come and join us and interview our lovely guests who have taken the time from their interviews to come and get some questions answered here for us today. So with that, I would love to welcome our dear friend and award-winning journalist, Jane Woodridge. Hello, Jane.
Well, hello. So happy to be here. Of course, we're in my home city, so I'm very pleased.
Yes, yes. And, Jane has been around for quite some time in this industry, and she has sailed around the world, has traveled around the world. So I love having you here because I know you usually have a lot of questions for us, but we have questions for you.
Okay, ask away.
All right. So for those joining us here today, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into journalism?
Oh, that's a really good question. I came out of school, I needed a job. I had always been in journalism in a way that I had worked for my junior high school newspaper. And it seemed like something that I would at least be able to make rent on. But more than that, it's really, I come from a family that believes in community service and public service. And for me, journalism has always been a form of public service. So that really is the underpinning of how I got into it. Some other people in my family have been in the ministry. They've run for office, and journalism is my format.
I love that you responded that way because, we're here today because we feel we have a service to our guests and, people considering our brand to come and learn about not only what we feel that sets WinStar apart, but what people like you, which are just so esteemed and are, speaking to so many people all the time and hearing from you. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
And so cruising, what do you remember your first cruise? And if you even wanted to go on a cruise, because was it like a job thing or did you personally want to go on a cruise having been raised here?
It was a job thing. And
Okay.
when I first started covering the cruise industry, I didn't like it a lot. I mean, I thought it was an important industry. It might be a great vacation for somebody else, but it wasn't a great vacation for me because I'm a real independent, get on the plane, figure out where I'm going when I get there kind of person. And the cruise industry used to say there's a cruise for everyone. And when they started saying that, it wasn't true. Now it is.
Love that.
And now there are cruise products that are for me, which is really great because I used to go on cruise products that I thought, this is great for someone else.
Right.
This is great for my brother, or this is great for my neighbor. Now there are cruises that are great for my brother, great for my neighbor, and great for me.
I love that. And so when was your first WinStar cruise?
Oh, heavens. rather a long time ago.
Okay.
In fact, under a different ownership. So a really long time ago. And I think we were on, this I can do, we were on windsurf and we were in the Caribbean, and I think we sailed out of Barbados.
Okay.
So I do remember it was my husband and myself, and it was a good experience. I think I bought it at a charity auction, maybe.
Okay.
And I have since been on WinStar and have found the experience today to be something I like enough that I recommend it to my relatives.
Amazing.
And you don't recommend things to your relatives that you are going to regret.
I love that. And what is it about WinStar today? Because I know Chris, we've talked about Chris, we've interviewed him. He's taken the helm about 4 years ago, and I know a lot of changes have happened and transpired since you first sailed. What is it about WinStar today that makes you recommend?
I think it's really, this sounds like a foolish term, but it's a breezy experience. I feel like I'm on the ocean, which you don't on all ships. I feel like nobody wants me to be too regimented, which you don't get on some other lines, although most have opened up now. The food's good. And I don't feel like it's stressful. I feel like it's very relaxed. That's what I mean by breezy. There are a lot of moments to be relaxed, to hang out with other people, or to be alone. But mostly I end up finding it so friendly, I want to meet people and have a great time. And we have done this not just in our work lives, but we've sailed on WinStar personally, and a couple of times, and had a really good time.
I think that's a really good segue, because it's small ship cruising. As you say, it's breezy, you're closer to the water in a way, right? Not from these new mega ships. We're almost like removed from the water. And what I think the second element which really works in the favor of small is that human interaction. It's like meeting the same people, same like-minded people more frequently. I mean, you're bumping into the guests multiple times a day. On a big ship, you don't, right? And so if you're a social person and like to interact with one another, that is a beautiful way to do on a small ship.
And I really love small ship cruising in large part because of that.
Yeah.
I think large ships have their place, and they have a wonderful experience for the people for whom that is intended. I used to cover the fashion industry a long time ago, and I would look at clothes on the runway, and I go, that's great for the person whose body that goes with, but it's not great for this body.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about cruising. There may be something that's great for somebody else. I love small ship, and I really love the attitude on WinStar. I mean, we really have had great times on WinStar.
Yeah, we try to be, not as pretentious or as regimented or as, dress code and so on, but much more fun-loving, more interactive, more, don't take life too serious, right? And that to me is whether it's the culture in corporate or on board amongst the crew, but it's even amongst the guests too.
Well, I have been in your corporate office, and I know you guys don't take things overly seriously.
Yeah.
You take them responsibly.
Yeah.
But you're not a bunch of stuffed shirts.
No, we have ice cream in the freezer though, so it's really good. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
hidden-
next
it's
time I'm
hidden.
in that neighborhood, I'm stopping by.
Yeah, you have to come.
That's it.
I love that. And you know what? I always hear the word friendly as well. And I think it's so important for our guests that are selecting a cruise. And, you have many solo travelers these days, or you have couples that maybe have friends that cannot travel the world. And so they sometimes, fear, oh, am I going to, meet anyone on board? And all we hear are the stories that are people coming on, WinStar, meeting a community of friends, and then traveling with these friends all over the world together.
Well, I really want to come back to the idea of solo travelers.
Yes.
When I started traveling on my own, we're not going to talk about how long ago, but it was a while back. And being a solo traveler was a real oddity. Like, people didn't know whether to take pity on you or whether to assume that you were some horrible person because you weren't
Right.
part of a a pair. And that's no longer the case, and I'm really happy to see that cruise companies in particular have recognized that solo travel is
Yeah.
a great way to go, and that you shouldn't stay home just because you're not part of a pair.
Exactly. And you know what? What happens then is they all come together. Like I feel WinStar does a phenomenal job in actually identifying the solo travelers, because you're right, there's a lot more on board now, identifying those solo travelers on board and connecting them as well.
It's so important. I did a couple of cruises in the last year where I was either with a girlfriend or on my own. And it was actually, my husband had a problem with this passport, which he lost, and I ended up in Asia by myself. Well, not my first rodeo, but it was really good to be able to connect with other people and not feel like you were the,
Right. Odd
strange
person, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. I think people, this perception that because you're traveling on your own, you don't want to talk to others, I mean, is absolutely something that came very much from the past.
Yeah.
But today I travel sometimes on my own for work, right? And so, the people that you meet along the way are pretty spectacular. And I think solo folks tend to bond together because you're here on your own. Okay, we can keep each other company.
Well, you don't want people to think that you're doing something untoward at the bar when you're
Right.
sitting there alone. That's
Right.
the other thing, is you go to a bar by yourself and somebody thinks that you're, trying to find company that you're not trying to find
Right.
whatsoever. You really just want to have a chat
Yes.
and a decent cocktail.
And there's also a safety factor to cruising solo,
Yes.
right? Because every evening we know if, or every port of embarkation or debarkation, we know if Jane or Janet or Chris has come back. And if we haven't seen Jane, we're going to go out and try and go look for her. And I think that's very different than if you're staying in a hotel in a remote destination. They're not really keeping track of you.
No, it's really a good point. And I am the person who has, crashed the motorbike and have done all the things that every ship goes, oh God, you didn't, did you?
Yeah.
But I always get back and they always make sure that I'm okay.
Yes, and I think that's important, right? I think, traveling the world and feeling safe and feeling welcomed, I think that's what we're all trying to achieve.
Yeah, and, in a place where, I think particularly in places where you've never been before, that's really important. I'm very fortunate. I've been a lot of places.
Yes.
But every time I land in a place that's completely unfamiliar, my brain goes to that, oh, is the cab driver going to steal me and take me away to blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
Is some horrible thing going to happen? It's not going to happen. I'm not going to let it happen. But on the other hand, it's really nice to know, okay, I'm going to a ship. They're going to notice whether or not I showed up. If I don't show up, somebody's going to call me and find
Right.
out where I am. And that's really great.
Yes, and we talked up a lot about choice of shore excursions. And one of the things that WinStar does, which I learned recently, was, some people don't want to go on a shore excursions with a group of 10 or 20, but they want to do the experience. We offer private excursions.
I know this because I did one. There was a group of us, 6 or 8 of us, and they did a private excursion for us. I'm embarrassed to say I can't tell you what island it was on, but it was in Greece.
Ooh.
And we went to these really cool villages, and we were the only tourists they'd seen in this village, and they made us rabbit, which I liked, but some other people think is funky. And I still have from that trip a cutting board, an olive tree cutting board, which, by the way, weighed about a ton, but I still got it
checking
back.
it in, yeah.
It was like, that thing is really heavy, but a great memory from that trip, and that was a private excursion for us.
Yes, and I think that's also wonderful because, again, there's a cruise line for everyone, but there's also a shore excursion. To me, at WinStar, the variety of shore excursions that we offer is also a pretty good selection, right, Chris? I think we do a pretty good job.
Yeah, you can be as active as you want to be, whether you go snorkeling, jet skiing, or cycling, walking to us, but you can also go to the historic town, and really explore a complete new destination from that angle. So I think the vast variety of excursions you can book is very special, and I think there's truly a tour for everyone.
We had a great time on that. I'm thinking about the last trip I was on with you all, and we had a really great time, and we took advantage of a lot of those.
Where was that last trip?
It was, did we start in Malta? I think we started in Malta and went, I did one that started in Malta, and then I did one that went through Greece.
Yeah.
Through the Corinth Canal.
Canal. Yeah.
Yeah.
That must have been a legend. Yeah.
Yes,
And we had a really good time.
And so for those listening and watching in, Corinth Canal is a stretch, right, that we usually take when we're leaving Greece and heading into Italy or, Dubrovnik, et cetera. And it's a very, very thin stretch of our ships that actually fit through there. And there's only a small amount of ships that fit through the Corinth Canal.
And we're the biggest one going through.
Yes.
So it's the one place where we are the biggest ship, right? Because it's really perfectly sized for us. So Corinth Canal is very special.
My husband loved that because he's a boaty guy. And he loved the Corinth Canal and that sense of maritime achievement to get
make
through
it
it.
happen, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is absolutely, it's a marvel, I think. I mean, I haven't done it myself.
Oh, you've got to do
No,
it.
I hope to be able to do it one day. And I think when I look at the pictures, I'm like, can you touch the wall? I'm like, or the rock?
Almost.
Almost. Okay. I'm
Not
like, I think I
quite.
would be
I
there,
think
like
if you have a
reaching
selfie
over.
stick, you can touch them. Yeah.
I mean, it's
That
pretty
may be
close.
right.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close. So you've done Greece and you've done Europe with us, and I heard
Yes.
you've done the Caribbean.
Yes.
And so for those listening in, what other destinations? I know I know you're up to date. You're always up to date with everywhere we're going. What would you recommend in terms of destination for cruise, particularly with WinStar, from the variety of choices they have?
Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Tahiti is a place to go back to. And I went, there's some long, ridiculous story about my first big date with my husband was, he sails.
Okay.
And it was a sailing trip. We chartered a boat in Tahiti with another couple. I was miserable the entire time. I hated it. It was back in the day before you had Kindle books, and I was out of books, and I got so cranky they put me in the dinghy on a long painter and said, when your attitude improves, you can come back on board.
You put in time out.
So I went down to the lounge every night after everybody else went to sleep and wrote in my journal, how long do I have to go out with this jerk after I get back? Moral of the story, he and I are now married 30 years. The other couple are divorced.
Oh, no.
And I thought I'd never want to go back to Tahiti. But I now
You're
realize that it's a beautiful place, and the way to do it would be on WinStar.
There
It
you
really
go.
would be. So and not on my husband sailing the yacht.
No, you're gonna go on a WinStar.
Yeah, it'd be a much better idea.
Star breeze, and it's absolutely paradise, and it is the trip to go on. So, yeah, we gotta work on some dates then, Jane. Huh?
Well, that's going to be the next one, because I think I didn't think I'd ever be ready to go back, but I'm ready now. I mean, 30 years. We're going to make it a bit longer, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
But okay, now what do I get to ask?
Okay, I knew she was going there. I'm like, you've done really good. I've been seeing you holding back, and you said the magic word Tahiti, and I saw Chris light up because that is his favorite place in the world. And so, so now we're going to turn it over to Jane, and we've been asking her enough questions. She's hit her limit, and now, Jane, do you have a question for Chris or I?
I do have a question. What is the itinerary that you have that you think is great that people don't know about?
Well, what I personally like, and I think people don't know about how we do it differently, is our Iceland cruise.
Okay.
Because there's obviously lots of other lines in Iceland, but what we do differently is we actually go around the entire island. And what that does is, to what you were saying earlier, it gives you so much diversity. It gives you a sense from the south, the north, the east, and the west, and how different the whole island from an landscape perspective. This lush forest trees to underground volcanoes with it looks like you're in the middle of a desert to these very powerful and flower fields. I mean, you get to see Iceland from so many different angles that you actually get a real good sense of the entire island. I think that's a big differentiator we're working on and we're having with Iceland.
Okay.
So
Well, I might get convinced. That might be a thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome trip, and you can. I mean, talk about activities, right? You can,
Yep.
take a 4-wheel ATV up a volcano, which of course I did, and it was just unbelievable.
You did. I'm
Yes.
just shocked.
Yeah, I know.
No, I know. I can't imagine.
But I was holding up the speed limit, so I just. But when you done,
It probably it was blocked to a certain speed limit, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
probably. But then you see the whole island. I mean, it is absolutely breathtaking, and it's a huge destination to me. And I mean, it's obviously a lot in the news lately, but as our ground operators would say, oh, don't worry about the volcanic activities. It's going to stop in the next 200 to 300 years. So,
Yes. Well,
I mean, they've had volcanic activities the last 1,000 years, right?
it's real. And I've been to Iceland a couple of times, and I find the topography of Iceland so interesting, and
Yeah.
it's because of that volcanic activity.
It changes it all the time.
It
right?
does.
Yeah.
And so it's different every time you go. That's the other thing about
Yeah.
it. So I want to know, you have a new ship coming out beginning of
Yes.
26.
Yes.
Sunseeker,
Starseeker.
Starseeker. I never get all the names right.
Yes.
Okay, so where am I going to go on Starseeker?
Well, you will be obviously there early on, so we'll have you on board. But you can go from Portugal over to Miami, and
Okay.
we'll inaugurate her on January 15 next year in Miami. And then Starseeker is going to go to the Caribbean.
Okay.
And for all of those guests listening in, the Starseeker is going to say hello to each of her sister ships at WinStar in the Caribbean.
Oh, fun.
So our guests who are sailing on Surf or on Pride will get to meet Starseeker during her Caribbean itinerary. Then she'll go through the Panama Canal
Okay.
and then up to Alaska. We will have an Alaska season coming back.
Have
And
you
that-
been in Alaska
Yeah,
before?
we have been there before with Star Breeze.
Okay.
3 years ago, and the cool part about it is we're not full on hardcore expedition, but we do what we call soft expedition.
Okay.
So it's a cruise to really small ports and small inlets in Alaska, and then we still can take our guests into Zodiacs, show you the nature and the wildlife. So it's a very special cruise. It's already booking really well, so we're very pleased about that.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and I think one of the challenges of Alaska is to get in settings that are small enough,
Exactly.
whether it's on excursion or whether it's on a smaller ship like yours, where you can actually get close to the nature.
Exactly, and get to see
Yeah.
something. And then she's gonna go to Japan.
Oh.
Yeah, so we do Grand Japan cruises. Our guests, we asked them last year
Yeah.
what they would like to see, and Japan and Alaska really came up very high. And we thought, well, gotta give it to the guests what they're asking for. So we went. We're going to Japan for the season, and then Southeast Asia.
Wow, that sounds like that's
just
right
been
up my
announced, yeah.
alley.
Yeah,
That's my favorite part of the world.
yeah. You can
So-
just stay on there for 5 months.
Gee, and as good as Starlink is, I don't think my employers would think that was quite the thing to do.
Remote work is still a thing, I guess.
Every chance I get.
Yes.
I
yes.
love that. Okay, so Southeast Asia is where we want Jane at, because I think we definitely have to bring you back and talk about that experience, because we love that region of the world as
Yeah.
well.
It is my favorite part of the world. I started going there when I was very young and by myself.
Wow.
I was in China by myself in 1985.
Wow.
And there weren't a lot of other people wandering around by themselves then. and it has remained my favorite part of the world.
It's
All
beautiful.
of, I mean, you know, Vietnam and Laos. My fantasy job once was going to be the ambassador to Laos, but I miss that. Didn't happen.
Quite the adventure, Jane. I love it. I love it. Yes, and you know, with the popularity of the show The White Lotus, we're going to Thailand as well. I
Good.
mean, yes. So we're excited about that's going to be a great itinerary.
Great.
But yeah, I highly recommend a Star Collector for you. If you can't do 5 months, at least 3 weeks. How about that?
Oh, there you go.
We'll talk to the employer. It'll be a prerequisite. She needs to do this job. Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Jane, it has been such a pleasure to have you here with us. I know you're very, very busy here at Seatrade and you're going to be interviewing a lot of brands, but just spending this quality time with you has been spectacular. And I hope this will not be your last time. We're going to continue to record these podcasts and hopefully welcome you back soon.
Well, thanks so much. I've enjoyed it, and always
it was
good to
awesome.
see you, Chris.
Yeah, it's
Take
great
care.
seeing you, and thank you for joining us here.
Oh, delighted. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.